Good morning, students and parents. Hope you're doing well. So we're going to continue looking at fractions, both models of improper equivalent and mixed number, and also the number, the fraction itself, and how that would look as a model. These are a little bit more abstract as we go along, so we aren't going to be using models that look like parts of a whole. We're going to start just using the fractions on their own. So it's going to go a little bit quicker. It's a little bit easier once you get the idea of fractions, both whole fractions and whole parts, or parts of fractions, and units of fractions. So take your time, stop the video if you need to. It's kind of a lot to absorb at one time, but I think the students, I think you'll see the pattern that's forming here. And once you've had enough practice, this will not be difficult at all. Good luck. We've seen this sheet before. These are some circle fractions. And there's two steps to this exercise. You see that some of them have the fractions on the outside. That means you have to show the fractional part, label the unit fractions inside, and the model of the fraction and this fraction on the outside have to be identical. Now I know that normally I put the whole number on the outside here, but we're going to take a little step back. I put the whole number over here. This is 1 over 1. We saw this in our wheel of names. That 1 over 1 looks like this, and we don't see this fraction very frequently, so I just went ahead and filled that in. Over here we want 2 halves. So you want to put in your unit fractions and show us what 2 halves look like. Over here we have thirds, and we want only one of those thirds, so you have to put your units in there and then block out the part that's going to be removed. So we only show 1/3 here. Now here's a sample of one. Okay, we had either this fraction was missing and it looked like this without the units in it, but we filled in our unit fraction, or force. Our denominator is going to be force here, and we colored out the part that's missing or got removed, and we have 3/4 here. So with the rest of these, like this one, you're going to have to put your unit fractions in here, make sure it's the correct unit fraction, go ahead and put your denominator here, and then how many parts are shown here. Okay, same thing for this. Down here, they've put the fraction in here. You have to create this fraction down here. Still put in your unit fractions, but all we should see is 5/7. The same thing for 6/8 and 8/9. Here we're back to this part up here. What's our unit fraction here? So that's going to determine our denominator. And then how many are shown here? Same thing for this one and this one. So that's pretty easy, pretty self-explanatory. I hope I don't have to go over too many examples with that. You do have a sample right here. On the next page, we're going to be going a little bit more abstract. Okay, I'm not going to show you the actual fractions that are divided into sections like this. We're just going to use the fractions themselves as numbers. So that's becoming quite abstract. And you have to come up with a mixed and improper fraction. So Mr. Buddinger's 3-number principle still applies here. You got this model here that's going to give you these 2 numbers here, and all 3 have to agree. So I'm going to show you a few things on that, especially for an improper fraction here. Now our unit fraction is 9ths, so we know that we can already put that in for our fractions. We don't change our denominators, not in 4th grade. In 5th grade we might be doing a little bit of that. So now we have to say, okay, this model, this complete model, if we add these all together, has to be equivalent to what we have over here for our improper fraction. Now we already know that's 9ths. That was the easy part. Now I'm going to show you something that you're going to see in middle school. And it's a little bizarre. I'm going to extend this fraction bar. It's a little bizarre, but I think you're ready for it because you guys are making great progress. And it's actually, I think, easier than adding and writing all these other fractions out. Remember, we're trying to make math as abstract as possible. So we're going from concrete to abstract ways of doing things. And abstract ways are the same thing as saying, let's shortcut this a little bit. And some of you shortcut in your head. This you may shortcut in your head also, but I'm going to show you a way if you want to add these fractions together that's a little bit easier than writing out a bunch of fractions. This, since our unit fraction is ninths, that's always going to stay the same. So all we really have to add up is the numerator parts. So let's go ahead and do that with this improper fraction. Let's start with this first one. Let's go ahead and say 9, and then we're going to use our operation plus. So we've already used that, so we're on to the next one. Here we have 3/9, so we're going to say 3. Okay, see all these 9s are staying the same in the denominator, and we're just adding the numerators. This one is 1, and then this one is 9. Who's ever at home is going to be super impressed by this because they didn't get this probably until high school. I think they introduced it in 9th grade. But now in 4th grade, you're getting it? Oh my goodness, they're going to think, oh, how'd you learn that? You're going to say, well, I'm just awesome. Okay, so now our denominator, remember our unit fraction stays the same, so this 9th, and we just add these up here. Now you can add them up in any order you want. I like to add the 1 and the 9 because that's easy to come with 10, and 10, and I'm going to go over to the 9 over here. That'll be 19 plus 3 is going to be 22. So my improper fraction is 22/9. Okay, I add these all together. Now for my mixed number, if you remember, a mixed number is a whole number. So I'll draw like a large box for you to answer, put your whole number in. And then the fraction part, which just has the fraction part, and we need to figure out the numerator and denominator. We already know what the denominator is because that's our unit. And we have to determine what of these fractions are whole fractions. Well, here's a whole fraction, and here's a whole fraction. These are fraction parts, or we call these kinds of fractions where the number is smaller on the top than on the bottom. Do you remember what we call those? We call those proper fractions. So this is an improper fraction, this one here, improper fraction. These are called proper fractions. So we just have to add. Well, let's add the whole numbers, whole fractions first. We don't have to add the fraction part. We can add the whole on the outside. So that's 2. And then we have 3 plus 1. That's easy in my head, 4. So now all three of these agree. 22/9, the model, and the mixed number all agree. So see if you can do that for the other examples at the bottom here. This will be our sample one. And then on the other page, instead of having any models over here, we have all the fractions. So this has to equal that, or be equivalent to this, and this has to be equivalent to that. So let me show you the sample for this one. Okay, we don't have any models over here, and I'm going to use the abstract way of doing it. And I have to come up with 43/12. Oh my goodness, we're getting the big numbers, Mr. Budinger. Okay, so I know that I have to come up with somehow 43/12 here. I know that the largest fraction I'm going to do here is 12/12. That's going to be one whole. And 12 is not quite large enough to be 43 yet. So I'm going to put together another 12/12 over here. I'm going to add those together. Now I'm going to use my space over here for a little bit of scratch paper. I'm going to say 12 plus 12 is 24. And I'm looking at my denominators. Is 24 greater than or less than 43? If you say less than, then I need another 12th here. Or something, I don't know. If I add another 12th here, what am I going to have? 12/12. I'm going to add another 12 to this. So I'm just building up, doing some column addition here. And this is 6, and that's 3, 36. Is 36 greater than or less than 43? It's still less than, so I still need some more 12s. But I'm afraid if I put another 12th there, I'm going to get I'm going to have a number that's too large, much larger than that. So I'm going to use I'm going to count up from 36. I'm going to count up from 36. I'm going to grab 36, so I have 36 in my hand, and I'm going to count up from that. 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. I'm getting close. 41, 42, 43. I need 7 more 12ths to get to 43. So I'm going to add another 7 parts to this one. And 6 and 7 is 13. And 3 and 1 in my tens place is 43. Hey, that worked out great. So this next one is not going to be a whole fraction. It's going to be 7/12. And if I add these all up together, I'm going to get 43/12. Okay? So that's using some of the skills that you learned in your previous grades to come up with an improper fraction quickly using a little bit of abstract math. Now, if I want to use my mixed number, all I have to do is say, well, that's a whole fraction, that's a whole fraction, that's a whole fraction, and this is part of a whole. So I'm going to add up again, just my whole numbers, 1, 2, 3. So remember, mixed number is a whole number plus a fraction part. My whole number is going to be 3. My units are 12ths. Haven't changed that. I've used this one, this one, this one. The only one left is the fraction part. That's 7/12. So now 43/12 as an improper fraction. My model and my mixed number all agree with each other. So down here you have an improper fraction, 51/10. I know that sounds like crazy high. That's a lot of fraction. You didn't have that in 3rd grade. But, do the same thing I did here as far as your example. It's going to be tenths, so this is going to be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 tenths. We just need 51 of them. And down here we have our mixed number, 3 2/3. This one's kind of easy. I think this one's a little bit harder. On the back side, we have some more examples. We start with a mixed number. We need a model improper. Down here we have an improper fraction. That's kind of a large one for 6, huh? It'll work out. Try it. Need a model and a mixed number. And then down here, I want you to do one on your own. Just come up with whatever one you want to do on your own. Do the shortcut. Show just the fractions as a number of the fractional number, and come up with a mixed and improper. And all 3 of these, what I'm looking for is for all 3 of these to agree.